Did you know that nearly 92% of men admit to watching pornography regularly, yet only 12% recognize they might have a problem? Here's what's even more shocking. Recent studies from Yale University show that porn addiction activates the same brain pathways as cocaine and heroin. If you've tried to quit before and failed, if you feel ashamed every time you relapse, or if this habit is destroying your relationships and self-respect, stay with me. I'm going to share research-backed strategies that have helped thousands break free permanently. This isn't about willpower alone. There's actual brain science behind why you keep failing. And once you understand it, everything changes. Comment below how long you've been struggling with this. I will be replying to each one because you deserve real answers, not judgment. Let me explain what's really happening in your brain when you watch porn. Every time you view explicit content, your brain releases massive amounts of dopamine, the same chemical responsible for pleasure and reward. Here's what happens next. Your brain starts to rewire itself, creating new neural pathways that associate pleasure exclusively with porn. Over time, your dopamine receptors become desensitized, meaning you need more extreme content to feel the same high. This is called the Coolidge effect, and it's why casual viewing escalates into compulsive behavior. Research from Cambridge University found that porn addicts show the same brain activity patterns as drug addicts when exposed to triggers. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and impulse control, literally shrinks with chronic porn use. This explains why you promise yourself you'll stop but click anyway. Your willpower isn't weak. Your brain chemistry has been hijacked. Studies indicate that 68% of young men struggle with porn-related issues, and this number jumps to 83% among those aged 18 to 30. But here's the hidden disaster. Most people don't realize this addiction silently destroys their real-life relationships, career focus, energy levels, and self-confidence. If left untreated, the addiction progressively worsens, requiring increasingly extreme content for arousal. Eventually, many men experience erectile dysfunction with real partners, a condition now called porn-induced erectile dysfunction, affecting men as young as 20. Let me tell you about James, a 28-year-old software engineer who started watching porn at age 13. By his mid-20s, James was spending 3 to 4 hours daily consuming explicit content. His relationship with his girlfriend deteriorated because he couldn't perform sexually anymore. He felt constant shame and anxiety. James tried quitting countless times, sometimes lasting a week before relapsing hard. The guilt was eating him alive. His work performance dropped because his brain was constantly foggy and unfocused. Then James discovered the neuroscience behind his addiction and implemented the specific strategies I'm about to share with you. Within 3 weeks, his brain fog lifted. Within 2 months, his relationship improved dramatically. Today, 8 months later, James is completely free from porn. His confidence has returned and his relationship is stronger than ever. He told me the key wasn't just stopping porn, but understanding how to rewire his brain properly. Comment brain fog if you've experienced this constant mental cloudiness and lack of focus. Let me know your age as well, because this affects different age groups differently, and I want to help you specifically. Before I share the solutions that actually work, you need to know what makes your addiction worse. Understanding these hidden traps will save you from countless relapses. Most people keep doing these things without realizing they're sabotaging their recovery. First, isolating yourself and staying alone for long periods. Do you know what happens when you're isolated? Your brain enters a vulnerable state where dopamine-seeking behavior intensifies. Loneliness triggers the same brain regions as physical pain, and your brain desperately searches for relief. Here's what happens next. Porn becomes the easiest escape route because it's private, accessible, and provides instant gratification. Studies from UCLA show that isolated individuals are 340% more likely to relapse within the first month of attempted recovery. But here's the shocking part most people don't know. Isolation doesn't just trigger cravings. It actually strengthens the neural pathways associated with porn use because you're repeatedly conditioning your brain that being alone equals porn time. Robert, a 32-year-old accountant, would come home to an empty apartment every evening. Within 20 minutes of walking through the door, he'd be watching porn. He couldn't understand why his evenings always ended the same way. Once he started scheduling activities and social connections for his evenings, his relapse rate dropped by 80%. Second, mindlessly scrolling through social media, especially platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Here's what they don't tell you. These platforms are deliberately designed to hijack your dopamine system using the exact same mechanisms as porn. The endless scroll of attractive images, provocative content, and curiosity-triggering thumbnails keeps your dopamine constantly elevated. Research from Stanford University found that heavy social media users show 67% higher relapse rates when trying to quit porn. Why? Because your brain is being constantly stimulated by similar visual triggers, keeping those neural pathways active and hungry for more intense stimulation. The algorithm learns what captures your attention and feeds you progressively more provocative content. Before you know it, you've been triggered into a full relapse. What's even worse is that social media creates an illusion of connection while actually increasing loneliness, which, as we discussed, dramatically increases vulnerability. Third, keeping your phone or laptop in your bedroom, especially at night. Do you know what happens during those late hours when you're alone in bed with unlimited internet access? Your prefrontal cortex, which handles impulse control and rational decision-making, is significantly weakened by fatigue. A study from Harvard Medical School revealed that willpower decreases by approximately 40% after 10 p.m. Your brain is tired, your defenses are down, and suddenly those urges feel overwhelming and impossible to resist. But here's the hidden danger. Nighttime porn use creates the strongest neural associations because you're in a relaxed, private state where your brain is highly receptive to forming new habits. You're literally programming your brain to associate bed with porn instead of sleep or intimacy. Fourth, consuming caffeine and energy drinks excessively. Here's what happens when you flood your system with stimulants. Your dopamine receptors become even more desensitized, meaning you need stronger hits of pleasure to feel normal. Caffeine doesn't just wake you up, it artificially elevates your baseline dopamine, making you constantly seek higher peaks. Research shows that high caffeine consumers experience 53% more intense cravings for addictive behaviors. The crash that follows caffeine's peak creates a desperate state where your brain seeks immediate dopamine replenishment, and porn is the fastest route. This creates a vicious cycle where you use caffeine to combat the fatigue caused by late-night porn use, which then intensifies your cravings the next day. Fifth, watching movies and shows with explicit sexual content, thinking it's different from porn. Let me be clear. Your brain doesn't distinguish between softcore scenes in mainstream entertainment and explicit pornography. Both activate the same reward circuits and reinforce the neural pathways you're trying to eliminate. A study from the University of Michigan found that recovering porn addicts who watched sexually explicit mainstream content experienced relapse rates of 78% within 2 weeks. Here's the shocking part. These acceptable forms of sexual content actually make you more vulnerable because you lower your guard, thinking it's not really porn. Your brain gets triggered, dopamine starts flowing, and suddenly you're bargaining with yourself that looking at the real thing just once won't hurt. Gepants?